much. Joining us now to talk about our takeaways, we have Angela Rye, former executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus and CEO of Impact Strategies. Scott Jennings, former special assistant to President George W. Bush, and Errol Lewis, political anchor at Spectrum News. They are all CNN political commentators, and we are grateful to have all of them at this hour. So, Errol, give us your top-level takeaways from what you saw last night.
The top-level takeaway for me was that the coronavirus, which is the center of what's dominating all of the news and really all of our lives at this point, was not really given the level of attention I was expecting it to get. I thought they were going to get into the weeds about the administration's response, about what was done as far as the interplay between the White House and the various states, about Mike Pence's personal role as head of the coronavirus task force. And we just kind of skipped over it in some ways. The moderator gave them a couple of minutes to talk about it. There were a couple of exchanges of talking points. I was a little surprised by that because so many other issues flow from that, like the economy, like the hunger problems that are plaguing so many states and so many families. They touched on it. They got into it. They exchanged talking points, including some long ago, not quite relevant information about who shut down the airports and at what point and so forth. But I thought that we'd have had a more fleshed out conversation. Beyond that, though, look, I believe that the Pence-Trump ticket is Trump-Pence ticket is actually behind and needs to make something change if they don't want to coast into a defeat. And I don't know if last night changed that at all, Allison.
Yeah, that's why I say to those who say, oh, it didn't matter, vice presidential debates don't matter. If it doesn't matter, it does matter, because there is a campaign that needs something to change right now, and that does appear to be the Trump-Pence campaign. Angela Rye, to you, your major takeaways.
Yeah, so my main takeaway was Kamala Harris came across as super poised, ready to not only debate, but also to serve the people. We'll recall that during the primary season, Kamala Harris's campaign slogan was "Kamala Harris for the people," as she said so often every time she went into the court. To me, it was super effective when she talked about were you calm? She turned to the camera. She said, were you calm when you had to go look for your last roll of toilet paper, when you had to think about your children not being able to see your parents because they could kill them? Very effective moment. I wish, again, to Earl's point, that the moderator really would have challenged Mike Pence when he turned to the swine flu response and talked about the ineffectiveness of the Obama administration's response, where under 13,000 people died versus the 211,000, now this morning, almost 212,000 people who have died under the Trump administration's response to COVID. I also think it was important that sometimes they would have been challenged. Mike Pence shook his head a lot and said, not true. I wish the moderator would have turned to him and said, oh, well, what is true, Mr. Vice President?
But Angela, overall, was that the moderator's responsibility, or was that Kamala Harris's responsibility? I mean, do you feel that she missed some opportunities to do that?
I think that she could have, Allison, but I think the moderator also has a responsibility, much to the chagrin of the Presidential Debate Commission, to actually fact check. So if he's shaking his head and saying not true, oh, what is true, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, as we know, he had the most talk time anyway, it certainly wouldn't have hurt her. Also, he missed a really important opportunity to condemn white supremacy. He went into the times where the president has condemned it, but then he didn't go into the many times where he did not condemn it, especially last week. I thought Kamala Harris had an effective line there. To me, all in all, on a lighter note, there were two winners last night. The first winner was Kamala Harris's facial expressions, where we were clear about that. If you have a black mama or a black friend, you know what those facial expressions meant. And secondly, it was Mike Pence's fly. The fly was there to send one of two messages. It was either from Exodus, where it says, for if you do not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies on you. Or it was Tupac saying, if you're going to invite me to the debate, I deserve a VIP suite because it's just me against the world. So there's that.
When you're talking about Mike Pence's fly, just to be completely clear,
oh, look,
at 6:10 in the morning, it's the fly on his head, okay?
Oh,
no. For 2 minutes and 30 seconds,
It was a long time. It was a long time. Now, we didn't last long in this show before getting to the fly, but Scott, I want to give you a chance for your top-level take on the debate.
Yeah, look, I thought Mike Pence had a nice night. The Trump-Pence ticket has not had a lot of good news lately, and so Mike Pence delivered what felt like some relief, I think, to Republicans last night. You know, I was watching the debate, and I was wondering, Is this going to be the first of a few debates we see between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence? This was the first time they've debated, but obviously both have aspirations beyond this particular cycle, and maybe we'll see them on the stage together in the future. I thought Mike Pence had a nice moment when he was talking about civility, and he was talking about RBG and Scalia and how that as Americans we can have arguments and disagreements and we can come together when those are over. I thought that was a really nice moment. And then when he was doing coronavirus, I agree with Errol. I was actually expecting a lot more detail on because of Pence's hands-on role with the coronavirus. But one thing he did during the coronavirus section that I liked, and this is something the president has not done very well, is directly acknowledging the sacrifice of the American people, where he has said, I see you, I hear you, I see what you're doing every day to get through this. I thought that was a nice thing for him to do, and it was an example among a couple where Pence was able to, I think, rhetorically do something on an issue that Trump just didn't get to in the last debate, or frankly, very much at all.
Errol, let's talk about the style of the candidates for a second. I think that many people expected Kamala Harris to be more prosecutorial. We have seen her do that, but there were moments where, and she certainly addressed every time that Vice President Pence interrupted her, but she did so with a smile and with sort of a gentle voice. I think we have an example of it, and then I want to get your take on what their styles were.
Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I want to
have
add,
to weigh in
but
here.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I have to
I'm
weigh
speaking.
in. Repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait,
I'm speaking. If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then
Please.
have a conversation, okay?
please.
Okay.
What did you think of that, Errol?
Well, that is the veteran of many, many courtroom battles and of many Senate hearings. This is somebody who knows how to slow down everything, capture the attention, and then with just perfect timing, sort of make sure everybody is focused on her before she resumes. So she's very good at those kind of forensics. I will say, I thought she was a little bit weaker when it came to talking about the economy. You can tell under the glare of the spotlight when people are talking about something that they're very, very comfortable with, and when they're really kind of mentally searching through their talking points and trying to make sure that they've got the mechanics right. And I think she was doing that with the economy. I don't know if she is as prepared to talk about that at great length as she is to do some of the forensic that you just described. When it comes to pushing back against somebody, which is what she did in that clip and did throughout the night last night, she's extremely good at that. And making sure everybody's looking at her gestures, making sure even subtle kind of communication of emotion or of facts are going to come through, and then she proceeds. That's how you talk to a jury, and that's how she talked to the audience last night.
They're wrapping us, but I do want both of your takes on this, Angela and Scott. First to you, Angela, because it is something that has been widely discussed over the last few hours since the end of the debate, how Senator Harris chose to handle that.
I guess when they wrap us, they kill the audio.
Yeah, this is something maybe the debate commission can take a page out of when they.
I'm sorry, we don't.
No, that was my fault. My mic was on mute. I'm back. So it was a troll moment, I guess, to Earl. I'm speaking. And I was saying that this is one of those things that a woman everywhere, whether they're sitting in a boardroom, they're sitting across from their boss, a colleague, they're sitting in a classroom making a point. It is a woman's point everywhere. I'm speaking and you're going to hear me. I think that not only did she speak with that gesture, with that smile, but also with substance. I think she actually did have command of the facts. And this is actually after having to navigate, right, during a primary when she ran against Joe Biden, having to say, now I'm going to embrace your policy positions and be your number two. So it's not only having to navigate the facts of a situation, but also having to navigate the differences between policy positions that are her own versus the now head of the ticket.
Scott, what did you think of their different styles, and did Vice President Pence interrupt too much? Did Kamala Harris fend that off well?
Yeah, I thought obviously Harris planned to do that several times during the debate, and she did, of course. The one time that stood out to me was when they were having their exchange over court packing, and she said, you know, she used the device, I'm speaking, and then he said, well, let's hear it. And she said, well, I'm about to explain it to you. And then she never did. She never came up with a. So I thought at some points the device was used almost just to sort of move the conversation along or eat the time, because she knew she wasn't going to get to the substance of the matter. The court packing one was the one that stood out to me. Frankly, I was stunned that they still don't have an answer on that. The Biden doesn't have one. The campaign doesn't have one. And she didn't have one last night. I guess they'll try again next week. But that one jumped out at me as a place where she could, as a member of the Judiciary Committee, by the way, that's her day job in the Senate. I thought she might have brought something to that tonight.
Guys, it is so helpful to get your perspectives on all of this. Thank you very much.
We promise you the results of the CNN Snap poll on who voters who watched think won the debate last night. Kamala Harris. According to the CNN poll, 59% of those who watched said that they thought that she won the debate. 38% said Vice President Mike Pence. Our panel is back with us. Angela Rye, Scott Jennings, and Errol Lewis. Guys, I want to pivot forward, if I can, just a bit. Into each of you, starting with you, Errol. If there's one thing the campaigns can do today to move forward from this moment, what do you think it is?
Picking up on something Scott said a little earlier, I thought Pence was at his most effective when he talked about the response to the coronavirus pandemic as something that all of America is doing, not just the Trump administration, not just a lone man on the balcony sort of, posing and saluting and posturing, but as something that all of us have done together. If the administration had done that a little earlier, I think they would have been in better shape politically, and it's a message that they probably should carry forward. We really all are fighting this together.
Okay, Scott, what do you think the Trump-Pence campaign should do today to seize the moment?
They need to continue to sow doubt among the American people about what Biden and Harris say they'll do today versus the positions they both took in the primary and versus the positions that Harris took as a senator on things like taxes, the Green New Deal, the trade deal, USMCA that was brought up last night. She's really got a lot of different positions, more liberal positions. Biden is trying to run a moderate campaign. Her record makes that difficult. So I think if I were the Trump campaign, I would really continue to try to sow doubt about whether can you believe them when they say they want to be a more moderate ticket, given what we see lurking right there in their record.
Of course, one of the big problems for the Trump-Pence campaign is President Donald Trump. Who knows what he will do today to pull whatever focus they may want to have on that subject, Scott. Angela, what does the Biden-Harris team do today to move forward?
I think it is more of the same. I think it was such an effective moment and drew such contrast at the end of the debate when you saw Kamala Harris's husband walk on that stage wearing a mask. This just a week after Donald Trump made fun of Joe Biden's big old mask. And of course, right in the middle of what is a White House spread of this virus. So telling people to wear masks, informing people of everything they know in real time, they should be acting as the COVID response task force, because it is truly a place where Vice President Mike Pence, his leadership has failed the American people. So you can say it's a sacrifice for all of us to make together, but it's definitely one where they have literally cost the lives of American people and couldn't even contain the virus at the White House. It is a national security issue. That is where they should lean in.
One that Kamala Harris didn't bring up last night, which was notable. She didn't talk about the White House outbreak really at all. We have to go. But Scott, Angela brought up, it was perplexing not to see Karen Pence in a face mask. I was puzzled by that because I just don't know what you get out of that.
Yeah, look, they have been very uneven on this. Trump had a moment, I thought, where he could have pivoted his messaging. He does not want to do that. The campaign probably wishes that the White House would be better on this right now. My view is you just got to be more careful. You have to acknowledge the reality, which is, as Angela said, there is an outbreak at the White House right now. And so my advice would be model good behavior. But you're showing, when you do that, you're showing kinship with the American people. We're all wearing our masks. Everybody's doing what we're asked to do. And so you should model that same behavior as a way to say we're all in this together.
Weird choice, maybe dangerous choice. All right, Scott, Errol, Angela, thank you all very much.